The hospital ceiling came into focus as I gasped awake, 5 years before Ryan would push me off that balcony to steal my restaurant. I was reborn with every memory of his betrayal intact. The pitch meetings he excluded me from, the investors he charmed with my ideas, and finally, the night he silenced me permanently. My fingers trembled against the scratchy hospital sheets. The antiseptic smell burned my nostrils as I tried to process what had happened. Somehow, I'd been given another chance. The doctors called it a minor concussion from a kitchen accident. They had no idea I carried memories of a future where my boyfriend would become my murderer. I nodded through their instructions, already planning my next move. Walking into my old apartment disoriented me. Everything was exactly as it had been before. Before Ryan, before Neon Bites, before I died. My bookshelf held cookbooks I'd forgotten I owned. My spice rack displayed bottles I'd used up years ago in my previous life. I drifted to my desk and yanked open the bottom drawer. There it was, my leather-bound notebook containing the original business plan for Neon Bites. I lifted it to my face and inhaled the familiar scent of leather and paper. My vision blurred with tears as my fingers caressed the pages where I'd sketched my dream restaurant. The concept Ryan would steal and claim as his own, but not this time. I had exactly 8 months before I was scheduled to meet Ryan in culinary school. 8 months to prepare for the long game of pretending not to know my future killer. The first day of class arrived too quickly. My heart raced when he walked in, that familiar cologne wafting across the room, sandalwood and citrus with a hint of something I now recognized as deception. I gripped my knife handle to steady myself as Chef Morris announced our partner assignments. "Elena and Ryan," the chef called out, just like before. I forced a smile as Ryan approached my station. "Nice to meet you," he said, extending his hand. His touch sent ice through my veins, but I maintained my composure. "Likewise," I replied, studying the face that had once whispered love to me before sending me plummeting to my death. Over the following weeks, I played my part perfectly. I shared my ideas, but not all of them. I showed enthusiasm, but held back my passion. I laughed at his jokes while remembering how he'd laughed after stealing my concept. "We work well together," Ryan said one evening as we cleaned our station. "We should collaborate outside of class sometime." The moment had arrived sooner than I expected. The ticking clock of our doomed partnership had started. "What did you have in mind?" I asked, scrubbing the counter with unnecessary force. "A pop-up restaurant, nothing fancy, just to test the waters." His eyes sparkled with ambition, the same look he'd had before suggesting we create Neon Bites together. I paused, wooden spoon clutched in my hand. This was the exact moment where everything went wrong the first time. A casual suggestion that led to shared dreams, which led to betrayal, which led to my death. While he waited for my answer, I quietly slipped a copy of my revised business plan into my bag, the original now safely stored with a lawyer who didn't yet know Ryan existed. My first power move in a game Ryan didn't realize we were playing. "That sounds interesting," I finally said, my voice steady despite the rage pulsing beneath my skin. "Tell me more about what you're thinking." Ryan leaned forward, eager to share his vision, my vision, stolen from a future that wouldn't happen again. As he outlined plans for a neon-themed Asian fusion concept with rotating seasonal menus, I nodded as if hearing it for the first time. "It's like you're reading my mind," I said, watching his expression carefully. He laughed, the sound echoing in my memory from that night on the balcony. "Great minds think alike, I guess." "They certainly do," I agreed, already calculating my next steps. I had to move carefully, give him enough rope to reveal his true intentions, while protecting myself from history repeating. The timer on my phone buzzed. 7 minutes until our class resumed. 7 minutes to decide whether I would walk this dangerous path again, knowing where it led last time. "So," Ryan asked, "are you in? Partners?" He held out his hand, unaware that I knew exactly what that partnership would cost me. I stared at the partnership agreement Ryan had placed between us, identical to the document that had stripped me of everything before. The cafe around us bustled with morning customers, the rich aroma of espresso mingling with the scent of fresh pastries. My stomach clenched as I remembered signing this exact paper in my previous life. "It's just formality," Ryan assured me, sliding an expensive pen toward my hand. We're equal partners in this. I scanned the deliberately vague language about intellectual property and concept ownership. The same loopholes he'd exploited to push me out were there, waiting like traps. I signed anyway, my signature flowing across the paper while my mind raced 3 steps ahead. To Neon Bites, he toasted, raising his coffee mug. I clinked mine against his, the ceramic producing a hollow sound that matched the emptiness of his promise. The betrayal began exactly 17 days later. I spotted Ryan through the window of an upscale restaurant I knew he couldn't afford on his student budget. He sat across from 2 men in expensive suits, the same investors who had funded him after he stole my concept. I ducked into a doorway and watched as they laughed and shook hands. The bitter taste of my cooling coffee matched the resentment rising in my throat. But this time, I smiled. Knowing what was coming gave me power he couldn't imagine. That night, I contacted a lawyer who had once helped my father with a business matter. I need to register some trademarks, I explained, my voice steady despite my racing pulse. And I need it done through a shell company that can't be traced back to me. The lawyer hesitated. That's unusual for someone your age. I have unusual problems, I replied, thinking of the balcony railing that would give way beneath my hands in a future I intended to rewrite. Within 2 weeks, every variation of Neon Bites belonged to a corporation that ultimately belonged to me. I traced the embossed certificate with my fingertips, savoring the smooth texture of the paper that represented my insurance policy. Ryan grew bolder as our pop-up restaurant gained attention. We need to refine the concept, he announced one evening as I chopped vegetables, the rhythmic sound of my knife against the cutting board punctuating his betrayal. Refine how? I asked, though I already knew. Less fusion, more focus on the presentation and atmosphere. The neon aesthetic should be the star. He gestured broadly, unaware he was describing exactly what I'd planned in my previous life. I've been sketching some ideas. Sounds interesting, I murmured, sliding my knife through a carrot with controlled precision. But we agreed on equal input. Ryan's phone chimed. He glanced at it, then back at me with manufactured regret. I need to take this. We'll talk details later. As he stepped outside, I quickly photographed his sketches, copies of designs he'd somehow obtained from my original notebook. My fingers trembled with rage, but I restored everything to its place before he returned. 3 days later, the real betrayal began. I received an email meant for our investors, accidentally copied to my address, detailing Ryan's innovative concept with my name conspicuously absent. I forwarded it to my lawyer without comment, adding it to my growing evidence file. The following week, Ryan surprised me with a new business card design. Neon Bites blazed across the top in electric blue with only his name printed beneath as founder and executive chef. What do you think? He asked, watching my face for signs of understanding what was happening. I forced admiration into my expression while my heart hammered against my ribs. It's exactly right, I said, pocketing one of the cards. Perfect for what we're building. That night, I made my countermove. While Ryan networked at a culinary showcase I'd claimed to be too ill to attend, I met with the building owner of what would become our flagship location in my previous life. The elderly woman recognized me from our neighborhood. My granddaughter loves your pop-up concept, she confided, sliding the rental agreement across her dining table. The lace tablecloth felt delicate beneath my fingers as I signed my name. Not Ryan's, not our partnerships, just mine. I had 90 days before Ryan would discover I'd secured the perfect location right under his nose. 90 days before he would realize his carefully orchestrated theft was about to collapse. And he still had no idea that the trademark he planned to build his stolen empire on already belonged to me. The investor meeting room gleamed with polished surfaces and success. I hid in the corridor outside, my phone recording every word as Ryan presented my concept as his own. The distant pop of champagne bottles and clinking glasses marked the moment he secured funding without me. To Neon Bites, I heard him toast, the restaurant that will revolutionize the dining scene. My nails dug into my palms as I remembered standing on that balcony in my previous life, confronting him about this very betrayal. This time, I slipped away unnoticed, evidence safely captured. The next morning, I discovered my name had been systematically erased from our business documents, just like before. The familiar panic threatened to overwhelm me as I scrolled through file after file where Elena and Ryan had become simply Ryan's Ventures. But unlike last time, I allowed myself only 3 minutes to feel the sting of betrayal before implementing the next phase of my plan. I forwarded the altered documents to my lawyer, then calmly texted Ryan as if nothing had changed. The weight of my secret knowledge steadied me while he believed I remained ignorant. When I arrived at our shared kitchen space that afternoon, my key card didn't work. I pressed it against the reader repeatedly, watching the red light flash in denial. The smell of grease and industrial cleaning chemicals wafted through the crack under the door, burning my nostrils and triggering memories of being locked out before. I knocked instead. Ryan opened the door with feigned surprise. "Oh, weird, your card's not working?" He let me in with exaggerated concern. "I'll call about getting you a replacement." I noticed my personal equipment had been moved to a corner, while his supplies dominated our formerly shared workstations. My recipe book, containing variations I'd pretended to develop in front of him while keeping my best ideas secret, had been rifled through. "Thanks," I replied, watching him watch me. The tension between us vibrated like a plucked wire. I'd hate to lose access when we're so close to launch. "About that," Ryan began, leaning against my workstation. "I've been thinking we should postpone. The investors want some changes to the concept." I recognized this strategy. Delay until he could remove me completely. "What kind of changes?" I asked, arranging spices on my station as if I still believed we were partners. "They think the management structure needs streamlining." His eyes never quite met mine. "Streamlining," I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue. That evening, after Ryan left, I retrieved the keys I'd hidden behind a loose ceiling tile weeks earlier. They felt cold and heavy in my palm. The keys to my future, not our shared delusion. I slipped out to meet the contractor at my secretly leased location. The space echoed with potential as I walked through it, my footsteps resonating against concrete floors that would soon be transformed. Floor-to-ceiling windows would showcase the glowing neon signs I'd designed. The open kitchen would feature the custom equipment I'd already ordered. "We can start tomorrow," the contractor confirmed, his pencil scratching against his notepad as he finalized details. 6 weeks to completion if we push." 6 weeks, 2 weeks before Ryan planned to announce his solo venture. I needed to move faster. "Make it 4 weeks, I countered, adding a substantial rush bonus to his fee. "And absolute discretion about who's behind this project." The next morning, Ryan texted me that our kitchen access would be temporarily limited due to renovations. When I arrived anyway, I found my equipment boxed and waiting by the door. "Just a misunderstanding," he assured me when I called, voice dripping with false concern. "The kitchen manager must have gotten confused about the schedule." I carried my boxes to my car, feeling his eyes on me from the second-floor window. He thought he was witnessing my defeat. In reality, he was watching me shed the last pretense of our partnership. That afternoon, I executed my escalation. While Ryan met with designers for what he thought would be the only Neon Bites restaurant, I finalized permits for mine under a different working title. I approved construction changes that would accelerate our timeline from 4 weeks to 3. Most crucially, I called the food critic who had once given Ryan's stolen concept a glowing review in my previous life. "I'd like to invite you to a private tasting," I said, my voice steady as I erased another piece of Ryan's future success. "I'm opening a restaurant that I believe will change how people experience dining in this city." 2 days later, Ryan left me a voicemail. His confident tone couldn't mask his confusion. "Elena, we need to talk. I'm hearing rumors about a competing concept that sounds suspiciously familiar. Call me back immediately." The clock was ticking. In 18 days, he would discover exactly how thoroughly I'd outmaneuvered him. I sat across from my great-aunt Vera, a woman who had died before my restaurant dreams began in my previous life. The antique clock on her mantel ticked steadily, marking the precious time I'd reclaimed by being reborn. Her living room smelled of lavender and old books, scents I'd forgotten during the years of fighting Ryan's betrayal. "You remind me of myself," she said, sliding a heavy envelope across the coffee table. "Too stubborn to give up and too smart to fail." My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside lay trust fund documents and a bank statement with numbers that made my breath catch. In my first life, I'd never known about this inheritance. I'd struggled for financing while Ryan charmed investors with my stolen ideas. I've been watching your pop-ups, Aunt Vera continued. You have vision, Elena. I won't live long enough to see what you build, but I can make sure you have the foundation. I embraced her, inhaling the comforting scent of her perfume, suddenly understanding why this second chance included more than just foreknowledge of Ryan's betrayal. The universe had realigned to give me every advantage. I won't waste this, I promised, determination replacing the shock. 2 days later, I walked into the investment firm that had rejected my pitch in my previous life but funded Ryan's stolen concept. The receptionist ushered me into a conference room where 3 investors waited. The leather chair felt firm beneath me as I settled in, smooth and supportive, unlike the rickety folding chair they'd offered me last time. Miss Vega, your proposal intrigued us, said the lead investor, Monica Chen. Particularly your trademark ownership and location selection. I presented my refined concept for Neon Bites, watching their expressions shift from polite interest to genuine excitement. The projections, menu innovations, and marketing strategy reflected 5 additional years of culinary knowledge I'd gained before my death. We rejected a similar concept recently, Monica mentioned casually. A young man named Ryan Porter, do you know him? The moment stretched between us. I maintained my composure, though my heart raced. We worked together briefly, I replied. Creative differences led us in separate directions. Monica nodded, a knowing gleam in her eye. His concept lacked something yours has in abundance: authenticity. By the meeting's end, I had secured double the funding Ryan had obtained. My quiet victory fueled the next phase of my plan. I contacted Chef Isabella Reyes that evening, the culinary star Ryan had desperately tried to recruit in my previous life. Her reputation for transforming good restaurants into great ones had only grown since my rebirth. We met at a small cafe near my construction site. When she extended her hand, I noted the scent of cardamom and star anise clinging to her fingers, signature spices from her celebrated pop-up series. Your proposal is ambitious, she said after reviewing my plans, but I see the vision clearly. Ryan Porter has been pursuing you as well, I mentioned, watching her reaction carefully. Isabella's expression soured. His concept seems derivative, and his approach was too aggressive. She stirred her tea thoughtfully. Your invitation to collaborate rather than simply work for you made all the difference. When she agreed to join my team, I felt the balance of power shift decisively in my favor. Ryan had always considered Isabella the missing ingredient to elevate his restaurant from good to extraordinary. Now she would help make mine exceptional. Construction on my restaurant accelerated while rumors about a mysterious competitor spread through the culinary community. I visited the site daily, watching walls rise and custom fixtures being installed. The concrete dust and fresh paint created a heady mixture that smelled like progress and revenge. I was inspecting the bar installation when my phone buzzed with Ryan's name. Have you heard about this new restaurant opening on Westlake Avenue? He demanded without greeting me. They're calling it a neon-themed dining experience. Someone's stealing our concept. The irony nearly made me laugh. Our concept? I repeated, running my fingers along the smooth edge of the bar. I thought things were being streamlined. His hesitation told me everything. Elena, we're still partners. Those business changes were just formalities for the investors. I need to go, I replied. I have a meeting. With who? Suspicion edged his voice. I gazed up at the electricians installing the custom neon sign that would soon illuminate the entrance to my restaurant. My name glowing in electric blue, exactly as I'd envisioned years ago in a lifetime away. The future, I answered before disconnecting the call. 12 days remained before both our restaurants would launch. Ryan still had no idea that not only had I secured superior financing, location, and talent, I owned the very name his stolen restaurant would bear. I spotted Ryan across his crowded restaurant on opening night, champagne flute in hand as he charmed food critics and investors. He froze mid-sentence when our eyes met. The crystal glass nearly slipped from his fingers as I approached, accompanied by three of the city's most influential reviewers. "Congratulations," I said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "The place looks familiar." The restaurant hummed with conversation and clinking silverware. Ryan's signature playlist, songs he'd taken from my original concept, pulsed through hidden speakers. The scent of truffle oil and seared meat hung in the air, masking the nervous sweat beating at his temples. "Elena," he managed, voice strained, "I didn't expect you tonight." "I wouldn't miss it," I replied, gesturing to my companions. "I was just telling Margot and the others about the inspiration behind Neon Bites. They're eager to hear your version." His eyes darted between the critics, who watched with professional curiosity. "My version?" "Of how the concept evolved," I clarified sweetly, "from our original partnership." Ryan excused himself to check on the kitchen, panic flashing across his face. I savored the moment, remembering how he'd excluded me from my own restaurant opening in my previous life. The critics peppered me with questions about our concept, unaware of the drama unfolding. The courier arrived precisely when scheduled. I watched as the maitre d' delivered the envelope to Ryan at the pass. His fingers fumbled with the seal, pulling out the cease and desist letter my lawyer had prepared weeks ago. The crinkle of heavy legal paper seemed to echo through the suddenly silent kitchen as staff paused to observe their boss's reaction. Ryan's face drained of color. He scanned the document, then looked up to find me watching through the kitchen doors. For a heartbeat, our eyes locked, his wide with shock, mine calm with vindication. He stormed across the dining room, letter clutched in his fist. "What the hell is this?" he hissed, voice low but trembling with rage. "A legal notice informing you that Neon Bites is a registered trademark," I replied, "one that you don't have permission to use." "This is insane. We developed this concept together." "Did we?" I raised an eyebrow. "Your business documents suggest otherwise. You've been quite thorough in removing my name from our partnership." Several nearby diners had stopped eating to watch our exchange. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "My restaurant opens next week. You might want to consider a rebrand before then." I left him standing amid his stolen success, already crumbling beneath him. The night air felt clean and cool against my flushed skin as I exited, already imagining the chaos my visit would create. The following morning, my billboard campaign launched. Enormous signs appeared across the city overnight, each featuring the words "Neon Bites" in electric blue lettering, with "Opening next Friday" beneath. I stood beneath one, watching early commuters notice the advertisement. The taste of victory was sweeter than I'd imagined during those bitter months of planning. 3 days later, Ryan's investors pulled out. My lawyer forwarded their termination letter, obtained through channels I didn't question, detailing their concerns about the trademark dispute. I read it while touring my nearly completed restaurant, the squeak of expensive shoes on marble floors echoing through the space that would soon welcome my first customers. "The investors are requesting emergency meetings with the other chef," my general manager informed me, "the one trying to use our name." "Let them come to us," I replied, adjusting a table setting to perfect alignment. "They'll find our paperwork is impeccable." That afternoon, the final piece of my strategy deployed when food bloggers received an anonymous email containing photos of Ryan's kitchen staff preparing my signature dishes, recipes he'd stolen from my original notebook. The scent of viral scandal spread sharp as vinegar through the culinary community. By evening, his reservation list had numerous cancellations. I watched the disaster unfold from my office above my restaurant's dining room, monitoring social media as critics questioned Ryan's originality and ethics. 5 years of planning for this moment, a lifetime of waiting for justice, culminated in his public humiliation. At midnight, as workers installed the final neon fixtures on my restaurant's facade, my phone lit up with Ryan's name. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Elena," he whispered, voice broken. "We need to talk." "There's nothing to discuss," I replied, watching my name glow in neon against the night sky. The sign illuminated the street below where tomorrow's success awaited me. "Please," he begged. "I'm losing everything." I remained silent, letting his desperation fill the space between us. "Meet me," he finally said. "One conversation, that's all I'm asking." I considered refusing, but curiosity about what he might offer. What lies he might tell compelled me to agree. Your restaurant. After closing tomorrow. I hung up before he could respond. 24 hours until our final confrontation. 24 hours until I could look into the eyes of the man who had killed me and decide his fate. My heels clicked against the empty restaurant floor as I approached Ryan, who sat alone at the bar. The space still carried his scent, that sandalwood cologne now tinged with desperation. Dimmed lights cast shadows across his face, highlighting the exhaustion etched into features I once loved. His phone vibrated against the wooden bar top, the sound amplifying in the silence. Another call from his investors, no doubt. Another person demanding explanations he couldn't provide. "Thank you for coming," he said, standing awkwardly. His voice cracked from what looked like hours of arguing with lawyers and business partners. "You have 10 minutes," I replied, remaining standing. My satisfaction deepened at seeing him in the ruins of his theft. The restaurant that should have been our shared dream now felt like a mausoleum to his ambition. Ryan poured himself another drink, the amber liquid sloshing as his hand trembled. "How did you do it?" he asked, genuine bewilderment in his eyes. "How did you know to trademark everything before we even formalized the concept?" I savored the moment, remembering the balcony railing giving way beneath my hands in another lifetime. "Let's just say I've learned to protect myself." "Your restaurant," he began, struggling to maintain composure. "The critics are already calling it revolutionary. Reservations booked for months." "I know." I'd checked the system before arriving. 3 months solid, with a waiting list growing by hundreds each day. "Elena," Ryan whispered, moving toward me, "I made a terrible mistake. I thought I needed to control everything to succeed, but I was wrong." His eyes glistened with tears that might even have been genuine. We were magic together. We still could be. The midnight call I'd been expecting, his desperate offer of partnership, had arrived right on schedule. I crossed my arms, unmoved by the performance. "The investors will return if we unite our concepts," he continued, his voice taking on a familiar, persuasive tone that once charmed me. "Your trademark, my connections. Your recipes, my marketing expertise." "The recipes you stole, you mean?" I corrected, watching him flinch. "I was afraid," he admitted, fingers gripping the edge of the bar so hard his knuckles whitened. "Afraid you'd outshine me. Afraid I'd just be known as Elena's partner instead of making my own name." I remained silent, letting him fill the space between us with increasingly desperate justifications. The ventilation system hummed softly, circulating air that carried traces of cleaning products and fading food aromas. "I've secured additional funding," he tried again, changing tactics. "Private investors willing to back a combined venture. We could open a second location immediately." "I'm opening my second location next month," I replied. "Chicago, the third will be in Miami this winter." His face fell further. "How? That's impossible without your connections?" I finished for him. "Without stealing someone else's concept?" "That might be true for you, Ryan. It's not true for everyone." He closed the distance between us, desperation radiating from him in waves. I stepped back, maintaining my boundary. In my previous life, I'd believed his repentance, accepted his partnership offer, decisions that led to my death months later when he realized I'd discovered his plan to push me out again. "Elena, please," he begged, voice breaking. "I was driven by love and fear, love for you, fear of losing you to your success." The confession hung in the air between us, exactly as it had 5 years from now on that fatal balcony. This time, I recognized the manipulation behind the trembling voice and tearful eyes. Ryan fell to his knees, grasping for my hand. "Give me another chance. I'll sign anything, any terms you want." The air conditioning kicked on, sending a cool breeze across my skin. I looked down at him, this man who had once killed me for a restaurant concept, and felt nothing but pity. My hatred had burned away during months of careful planning, leaving only clarity. "No," I said simply. The single word echoed through the empty restaurant. Ryan blinked, uncomprehending. "What do you mean, no?" he asked, still kneeling. "No partnership, no second chance, no future together." I stepped away, signaling to the security guard waiting by the door, another precaution my previous life had taught me to take. "You can't just—" Ryan lunged forward, grabbing my wrist with unexpected force. The security guard crossed the room in 3 strides. Time to go, sir, he said, professionally detaching Ryan's grip. This isn't over, Ryan shouted as he was escorted toward the exit. You're making a mistake. I watched silently as his silhouette passed beneath the restaurant's entrance, the neon sign bearing my trademark name casting his defeated figure in electric blue. The door closed behind him with finality. My phone chimed with a message from Chef Isabella about tomorrow's soft opening. Life continuing exactly as I'd planned it. 3 security guards would now monitor Ryan's movements near my restaurant for the next 6 months. A precaution against the rage I'd glimpsed in his eyes. The balcony death from my previous life would never come to pass. I turned away from the door, from Ryan, from the past. 7 minutes until my driver arrived to take me home. 7 minutes to savor the freedom of finally writing my own ending. 1 year after Ryan's downfall, I stood in front of my flagship restaurant, keys to the 5th Neon Bites location heavy in my palm. The morning sun glinted off the windows, painting the sidewalk in warm golden light. Passers-by smiled and pointed at the building that had become a culinary landmark in just 12 months. The weight of success felt solid and comforting. 5 thriving restaurants, a cookbook deal, and a feature in Bon Appetit, all achieved without a single backward glance. My empire had grown faster than even my reborn self had dared to hope. I unlocked the door, breathing in the familiar scents of my kitchen, clarified butter, fresh herbs, and the indefinable aroma of prosperity. The staff wouldn't arrive for another hour. These quiet moments belonged to me alone. My phone buzzed with a news alert. I hesitated before opening it, recognizing the food blog that had once championed Ryan's stolen concept. The headline made me freeze. Former rising star now flipping burgers, Ryan Porter's new role at fast feast chain. I skimmed the article, a strange calm settling over me as I read about Ryan working as a line cook in a fast food franchise. The irony struck me when I reached the final paragraph describing the location, beneath a shopping mall with my neon blue trademarked sign illuminating the parking lot where he now worked. Justice had a peculiar symmetry sometimes. I closed the article without saving it, no longer needing to track Ryan's downfall. The lingering bitterness that had fueled my rebirth had transformed into something else entirely. Not forgiveness, but freedom from the need for further revenge. That evening, I hosted a charity dinner for culinary students, the dining room humming with excited conversations. Young chefs in training circulated with trays of appetizers, their faces bright with the same passion I'd once had, still had, though now it burned cleaner without hatred feeding the flame. "Miss Vega?" called one student, nervously approaching with a familiar leather notebook. "Would you sign my business plan? Your story inspired me to pursue my dreams." My fingers brushed against the rough texture of the cover as I took it, memories flooding back of my own original business plan, the one Ryan had tried to steal in 2 lifetimes. The sensation grounded me in the present, in this hard-won reality. "What's your concept?" I asked, genuinely interested. "A sustainable seafood restaurant that works directly with local fishermen," she explained, voice gaining confidence, "with a profit-sharing model that includes the fishing families." I opened her notebook, flipping through detailed plans that reflected both creativity and practicality. "Have you considered applying for my mentorship program?" Her eyes widened. "I didn't think I was experienced enough." "Experience isn't everything," I replied, remembering how my rebirth had taught me that foreknowledge could be more valuable than years of practice. Sometimes vision matters more. After signing her notebook, I made my way to the kitchen where Chef Isabella was preparing the main course. The rhythmic chopping of her knife against the cutting board created a soothing percussion that underscored the evening's success. "The scholarship fund exceeded our goal," she informed me, sliding roasted vegetables onto waiting plates. "Enough to support 15 students through culinary school." "Make it 20, I decided, already calculating adjustments to our quarterly budget. "And add a business training component." Isabella raised an eyebrow but didn't question the spontaneous expansion. She'd learned to trust my instincts. As midnight approached and the last guest departed, I found myself alone in the dining room. The chairs had been stacked, the floors swept, the kitchen returned to gleaming perfection. Tomorrow would bring more service, more reviews, more growth, but tonight, in this quiet moment, I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply. The aromas of my signature dish, butter-poached lobster with fermented citrus and truffle foam, lingered in the air. The recipe Ryan had once claimed as his own now appeared in prestigious food magazines with my name attached. My phone buzzed again, a message from my lawyer. Final paperwork filed for the Paris location. Neon Bites International is officially established. 6 restaurants, 3 countries, and a future stretching before me unclouded by revenge or fear. I walked to the window, gazing out at the city lights. Somewhere across town, Ryan might be clocking out from his late shift, the glow of my neon sign illuminating his path to a bus stop or a modest apartment. I found I no longer needed to picture his downfall to feel complete. The universe had given me a second chance, not just to avoid death or punish my killer, but to truly live the life I was meant to have. I turned off the final lights, my reflection in the darkened windows standing tall and confident. 5 years ago, I had awakened in a hospital bed with memories of betrayal and death. Tonight, I walked out the door of my restaurant empire focused entirely on tomorrow's promise. The future I was always meant to have awaited me, and this time I faced it free from the shadows of the past.